As the end of the game draws closer, we increase the ratio of time-pressured puzzles, like this turret ambush, to give the players the sense that they're approaching a climactic encounter.
Okay, yeah, I definitely got the impression of that. Like, when playing through the game, even initially, I did get the feeling that, you know, having more time, like more time crunches and stuff like that, it definitely felt like we were leading into the end of the game, and I definitely got that impression. So again, you know, again, I just can't say enough. Like, well done to the developers, well done to Valve, well done to the entire team for making this, you know, making it definitely feel like that you were heading towards the ending of the game, because honestly, you did a really good job. So let me just say right there. So okay, what we got next? I can hear a radio.
An important design goal of these post-escape levels was to give players the sense that they're running wild inside the guts of the facility. With that in mind, we added plenty of nooks and crannies for players to crawl into or place portals through. This ended up being a tricky lighting challenge, as the areas needed to be bright enough to navigate while still being dim enough to feel like obscure, disused sections of the building.
Yeah, again, that's another thing. Let me just get away from that radio so I can talk a little bit. But yeah, that's again very good points there. Like they're trying to make all of this feel like it's detached from the main like the main test chambers, the main testing track. You know, kind of like giving it a vibe of like you are not really supposed to be here. And again, just to make it feel like it's, you know, the end of the game, you're not really meant to be here, and just yeah, I mean, they just did a good job of all of that, really. But yeah, you can definitely tell the ending is near, and yeah, it does really feel like that you really aren't supposed to be here. Hey, commentary node.
Sarcasm. GLaDOS is sarcastic a lot, and that's so much fun. But while I was trying to do this, trying to build in all these emotions, I still had to maintain the computer sound and maintain the pronunciation of repeated phrases. You know, aperture science and the enrichment center.
Okay, we've got some more intel, more information from the voice actress for GLaDOS there. I'm sorry, I can never remember her name or how to pronounce her name, and I'm always afraid of butchering names. So that's, if I never pronounce something, it's because I'm afraid of butchering them. But yeah, she was saying about when, like, because again, she is right. GLaDOS is sarcastic a lot, and again, she had to find a good balance between sarcasm whilst keeping that like robotic kind of voice, and also like the repeated phrase, like so she had to sound somewhat emotional. Like, yet she had to portray her sarcasm and her emotions whilst still maintaining the somewhat robotic kind of voice, like aperture science, the computer aided enrichment center. Like, you know, all of her lines, she had to find a way to deliver all her lines like with the correct level of emotion, the correct level of sarcasm, while still keeping that robotic kind of voice. But yeah, again, I feel like she did a good job. Like, she found a good balance. She made it work. She made it believable. So again, she did an absolute banger of a job. It's all I can say. Again, you know, again, well done to the team. Well done to Valve. Well done to everyone that worked on the game. That's all. I know I sound like a broken record in these, but it's all I can really say, to be honest. Again, brilliant job.
These rocket sentries originally fired lasers. We switched from lasers to rockets after we introduced the glass breaking mechanic, mainly because glass shattering in a massive rocket explosion turned out to be a lot more satisfying than glass just slowly being melted by a laser. Originally they also spoke, just like the bullet turrets. Because players often redirect the rockets with their backs to the turret, however, a distinct uncluttered sound cue was required. The voice simply added too much noise to the rocket redirect mechanic.
Okay, interesting. I am doing this just so it can't shoot at me while I'm talking. It's a bit more distracting, but yeah, the fact these rocket turrets went through a bit of a change as well. Like, they used to speak just like the regular turrets, and the fact that it used to be a laser. But yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely think the rockets. I think launching rockets at GLaDOS is definitely more satisfying in the end. And yeah, like, all the talking might have made it a little bit too busy again for the final boss, since again GLaDOS is already talking a lot during that boss fight anyway. So I think maybe making it just be like the normal, I think that's a lot better. But yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like launching rockets at GLaDOS rather than a laser is way more satisfying. And yes, it's always fascinating to hear just how many differences there are, like, between the developing stage of the game and the final version. It's always fascinating to hear.
Breaking this tube gives players a chance to test out their newly trained rocket redirecting and glass breaking skills in a slightly different context, which helps cement the training.
Okay, again, it's just like before, like, all of this, like with the rocket turret stuff, it is training you, getting you ready for the final boss. So again, the incinerator from earlier, the rockets, all of that's just, this is basically training you for the final boss. And again, yeah, it's training you to use the rockets in different ways, so it's not just one thing. Like, again, it is quite clever, and ultimately I think it does a good job at making you aware, making you know what to do in the final boss. I mean, again, once all of this is done, it should be pretty obvious. And the fact that the boss fight's not too much later after this, I definitely think it helps. Like, I think if the boss was much later after this, you might have forgotten. But yeah, definitely think in terms of like training, I definitely think it works quite nicely. Okay, what's next?
This massive turret ambush was originally a lot more massive, with turrets that dropped from the ceiling and popped out of surprise hatches. In fact, for a while, it was the game's climactic battle. Through playtesting, we learned that this type of pure combat experience didn't really fit with the preceding few hours of player training. Over several iterations, we toned down the combat and made the room more about using portal momentum to fling yourself great distances, a skill that playtesters really enjoyed using, and that's a key component of what eventually became our final battle.
Okay, interesting. So this massive turret ambush used to be much larger, with a lot more turrets. So yeah, I imagine we still had the turrets like in these little cubby holes, but from the sound of it, like there were like turrets like popping up out of the floor and being dropped down by cranes and stuff. So, oh god, yeah, that sounded like it would have been a lot more daunting. And oh god, yeah, I mean, I can see what they were going with. You want this to feel like the climax of the game. And again, it did sound like that at one point this was actually meant to be the final. I'm not sure if it was meant to be the final boss, but I mean, yeah, I'm really glad that they went with this version, because honestly, that the previous version sounded like it might have been a little bit too complicated and a bit too much for me. Like, I definitely think I would have gotten shot a lot. Like, this gives you a lot of time to dodge out the way, but that sounds a lot worse. That sounds like a lot more difficult. By the way, sorry if you can hear a helicopter flying over. It's not really much I can do about that, but hopefully it's not too loud. But yeah, definitely glad we went with this version rather than that one, because that sounded pretty I don't even know what the proper word is, but yeah, that sounded a lot more punishing than this final version, which I'm glad we ultimately went with.
Originally, these catwalks were decorative, but playtesters consistently thought they were significant and often spent a lot of time trying to reach them. We didn't want to stand between people and their desire to walk on the catwalks. So we redesigned the area to make catwalks not only accessible, but also necessary to proceed.
Oh! Interesting. So, originally, again, if we go back here, hang on, let me just quickly, can I make sure that, okay, let me just make sure I can get back up here, easy enough, but let's see, so the orange portal is there, so keep the blue here. So let's go back down there for a moment, but from my understanding, those catwalks, like, based on what's being said there, and let me just go back to the so let's see, let me just shoot a portal so we can get back. Okay, but from my understanding, those catwalks initially were just like decorative and not really meant to be accessible, but playtesters kept trying to get up there. So much so that the developers ended up making them part of the game to get to the final boss, which again, it's you don't really hear about that much, like, you know, playtest. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. I personally not heard anything like that myself. Where basically playtesters have tried so hard to do something that the developers just basically made it part of the game, even though they were just meant to be decorative initially. But again, that's a nice thing to hear about, you know. Like the players wanted to get up there so badly that the developers just made it part of the game, which is nice. Okay, that was annoying. That took a while. Sorry, usually when I do all these commentary note things, usually I wait for the characters to exhaust their dialogue, and in scenes like this, it takes a really long time, but I think she's been quiet now, so now let's read the final lot of commentary notes.
The fiction behind this red phone is that while GLaDOS was being developed, it was somebody's job to sit by it. And if it ever looked like the AI was becoming sentient and godlike, that person would pick up the phone and call somebody to come help. In the point in time where the actual game takes place, it's become obvious that the Aperture Science red phone plan didn't 100% work out.
Huh. Okay, interesting. I never really thought about the red phone, to be honest, but again, it's always nice to hear about these like extra bits of lore that you didn't know about. So the idea is, if the AI ever became sentient, someone would call someone on the phone to call for help. But yeah, clearly since there's no scientists here, clearly that didn't exactly work out like they hoped. Okay, what node should we go with next? There's only a few in here. So let's go with this one first. Hopefully she doesn't start talking again, because that's pretty annoying.
So when they told me that there was going to be a song at the end, I thought, well, all right, who's going to write the song? And they told me there was going to be a song written by Jonathan Coulton. And I listened to a song that Jonathan had written, and it was very funny, very clever. So I thought at that point, well, you know, this will be okay. But I am an opera singer, so usually I sing, "Ah, quando me ne va." And I thought, well, will I be able to have the right style for the song? So I was concerned. But then before the recording, they sent me an MP3 file of the song, and I listened to it with Jonathan singing it, but I loved the little song. And at home, as I practiced the little song, I tried to, get back to GLaDOS's voice. Aperture Science, just this tiny little passive-aggressive computer who's all alone until people try to come in and murder her. So of course she gets upset. But she seems to have this real affinity for cake. And I want to play the game because I want to recreate the cake recipe and then put Portal on it and be able to serve it to my friends when they come over to my house.
Okay, I did not know about that. I did not know that Ellen I'm too afraid to say it. I'm too afraid to butcher her name, but interesting, the fact that she's an opera singer. I did not know that. Again, the more you know, you learn more things the more you play the game. Again, this is stuff that even I didn't know about, and I've been playing this game for years. But yeah, I mean, So yeah, she was an opera singer, so she was a little worried that it might not work. But again, I feel like she did pretty well, all things considered. And the fact that she, again, I spoke about this in the last part, I think, or was it the part before? But she mentioned that she wanted to play the game just so that she could make the cake recipe and serve it to when her friends come round to her house. Like, that's, again, it's lovely to hear stuff like that from the voice actors and stuff. It's but again, it's just all around lovely stuff to hear. And again, I learned something new. I didn't know the voice actress was an opera singer. So yeah.
GLaDOS, the rogue disk operating system that now runs Aperture Science, went through a bunch of design iterations. Earlier versions included a floating brain, a sprawling spidery mechanism, and an upside-down version of Botticelli's Rise of Venus built out of robot parts and wire. Eventually we settled on a huge mechanical device with a delicate robotic figure dangling out of it, which successfully conveys both GLaDOS's raw power and her femininity.
So again, once again, GLaDOS herself went through a few iterations as well, which is always interesting. Yeah, again, I mean, I've heard of what GLaDOS is based on, like, and it's horrific. And again, the fact that it was like meant to be a brain at one point, or a brain, or a like more spider-like robot. But again, I mean, again, this look for GLaDOS is, you know, it's iconic. I mean, sure, the Portal 2 version is more iconic these days. Like, usually when you say GLaDOS, I think they're usually thinking of the Portal 2 version. But again, for the time, this design is iconic, and I couldn't really imagine any other design, really. So again, it's just always fascinating to hear all these different iterations and, you know, development and that they went through just before finally landing on the final version. But yeah, some of the things that GLaDOS was meant to be based on, like the inspiration for GLaDOS, is terrifying. If I can find something, if I remember, I'll try to get something on screen. If I can find it, I don't know, but yeah, again, bloody terrifying. Okay, and that about wraps everything up for the developer commentaries, the extras, and also the Portal the Portal version 2 Let's Play as a whole. So yeah, that's pretty much everything at this point. I don't really have any other plans for extras at this point. There's not really much in here that's worth doing since the cheat codes aren't even in this version, so I can't show that off. So again, that takes care of everything for Portal. That's the entire series done now. So again, all that said, I will see you guys in my Let's Play for Portal 2 and obviously the other series going on. But yeah, basically after this, we're going straight into Portal 2. So whatever the next episode is you see by me, or whether it's Bleach Soul Resurrection, which is still going, or if it's Undertale still going, or the next Let's Play, which will be Portal 2, whatever the case, I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, have a good day, you guys.